This is a reading from the Notebooks by Maria Valtorta, 1944, December the 2nd through to the 10th. They're all short readings. December 2nd. Father Pinoni, a priest with the Servants of Mary who later left that order, came and has just left. Jesus responds to my personal reflections in this regard with a beautiful smile. Do you see that I am right? My Maria, souls are more entangled and filled with antithetical elements than a skein falling into the hands of a puppy that dishevels and tears it. With patience and charity one must pick up all the debris gathered from the floor, and then all the useless, tattered pieces of yarn, so as to be able to wind them into a ball and use them. Some of it gets lost, but always just a little. Whereas if one were to say, "Oh, this work is too complicated," and threw it away, everything would be lost. I know that certain forms of character bring clashes and friction to other types. But what about charity? And don't you remember the other factors I mentioned to you? This may refer to impatience mentioned in the dictation on October 11th. Always consider that this, as if by way of sudden frenzies or momentary dazes, is what leads to men to acts which brings pain to other men. You see him. He is a boy. I ask you to plunge him into your world, which is mine, to the point of submerging him in it, so that he will be soaked in it, and emerge as a man, and new and a priest, just as I want my priests to be. Go in peace, I bless you. December 6th. I am getting worse and worse. For 3 days the pain in the area of the spleen and left kidney has been so tremendous that wrenches cries out of me when I move, and if I am still, it is as if a dog were gnawing at my insides, or there were an enormous abscess. I even have swelling in that area. Since yesterday, in addition, I have had even more acute pains in both lungs, so that every breath is very painful and difficult. Yesterday at 3 p.m., I experienced a moment of real discouragement, and wept, thinking I may have to die here, alone, and away from my house. Why are you so far away? Why did I agree to come here? What compassion did I have in making this sacrifice for others? Now that I am like this, in serious condition, and isolated, they have gone off, and that's all there is to it. But I've got to be patient and go forward. It's a good thing that I am remaining in Jesus' arms. A little while ago I complained to him, "O Lord, I am getting worse and worse. You, out of pity on my state, are dictating nothing more to me. We are no longer free to. And without even the slightest hope of being able to leave, what shall we do?" Drawing me to himself, oh, how sweet this is, he replied, "Put everything in my rustic cradle in Bethlehem. You are so cold, you have so many thorns, you are so uncomfortable, you are so alone, you suffer so much. Give me your cold, your thorns, your discomforts, your solitude, and your sufferings. Fill my poor cradle with them. On contact with the child God, they will become blessings and graces. I want the crib to be full of them, because the world needs graces of love and mercy. I want to inundate the world with mercy. It must overflow from my cradle, but it is the love and generosity of my victim souls, of the souls that are truly my spouses, that fill the cradle. Go in peace. I am with you. And then, onward. But have mercy, Jesus. A little mercy for us victims, too. You had the Cyrenian and the devout women. Matthew chapter 27, verse 32. Mark chapter 15, verse 21. And Luke chapter 23, verse 27. You had the Cyrenian and the devout women, Veronica and the love of your mother, and John. Give me at least my director and my house. Let me die with him near and in that place, and then do what you please with me, what you please, and as you please. December 7th. The dictations on October 11th, November 6th, November 25th, and December 6th are to be read in response to the letter received today at 3 p.m. Late evening. The mother responds to my suffering over Father Migliorini's letter by appearing beautiful, gentle, and soft in her snow-white dress, and she says, "Poor daughter, this is our destiny as victims, No one else has ever been misunderstood and reproached by relatives and priests so much as, or more than I was. But imitate me. Obey Jesus. No one is greater than he. And she stays with me until my pain calms down. December the 8th. I write the letter to Father Migliorini enclosed here. No letter has been attached to the notebook. And let us hope it will be definitive and clearly understood. There is now congestion in my head and lungs on account of the exertion. Jesus well knows I can do nothing in this state, but the others know nothing. December 10th. Last night, after having written the letter which I hope will be delivered to you today, and I ask God to illuminate you to interpret it, placing yourself in the condition we are in, isolated here, in need of clarification which only you can give, and very, very disappointed with your Sibylline reply on the 6th, which really surprised and saddened us, I sank into a very painful sopor. How I suffer now when they come, especially if I have to fight against the sopor, because these are people and all the rest. Because there are people and all the rest. I came out of it with the first light of dawn. I at once set to praying, and Jesus came. Jesus has used this time of, shall we say, a public pause for private instruction of his poor Maria. I indicate the part of it which Jesus wants me to. The rest is my secret and always remains with me. This morning he responds to my reflections, pervaded by discouragement about how poorly I am understood, as follows. Even the best people commit faults. There is nothing perfect but God. And yet men have wanted to find imperfections even in me. And I could say they have systematically attached meanings different from the true ones to every action by me. For this reason, I gave you the teaching, do not judge. Matthew chapter 7, verse 1. Luke chapter 6, verse 37. Consider, soul of mine, that men are so deficient, and even without so desiring, but rather feeling repugnance, so imbued with pride, that they arrogate to themselves the right to attribute to God actions which in reality are willed by them, and not by God. Actions which, if they were truly willed by me, in view of their unjust nature and deleterious consequences, would justify men in criticizing God. When will men understand and firmly believe that God is goodness, patience, justice, and love, even in the smallest matters? I remain pensive after this lesson. I then dare to repeat a question. I, who hate to ask Jesus questions, I like to leave him free to instruct me as and regarding whatever he pleases. But Father Pennoni insisted, see note 797, insisted the last time too, in this connection. If it were someone else, I would pass over it, but since it's him. Jesus smiles with a good but serious smile and says, if those people are truly religious, in the certainty that their 4 loved ones who died tragically passed away in the grace of God, they ought to find relief for their highest pain. I say highest, right very clearly. Human pain is more brutal in its suffering, and wrests moans even from the saints. This, right slowly but clearly, always ought to be considered by those who listen to the outbursts of survivors, and whose mission it is to console. The highest pain is spiritual pain, most intense in those who are not dead to the spirit, because they have nourished themselves for many years with spirit. They join to human affliction over having lost aid or affection, the pain of uncertainty over the eternal fate of those lost. No, in this case it is not the case. Let pain be soothed in the certainty of a blessed reunion. However, tell the one who wanted this reply not to be an inept pilot, a ship's master, go slowly but right clearly, who forgets the most elementary norms of navigation. A soul upset by a tragic shock is comparable to a ship caught by a heavy storm. It needs to be assisted and lightened, without imprecating against its incapacity for emerging from the tempest, so as to enter into calmer waters. Now what kind of pilot or ship's master would be the one able only to block the poor ship even more with theoretical maneuvers which are not always exact and sometimes harmful, especially in certain cases. If, instead of furling the sails, he were to open them all, wouldn't he place the poor ship even more at the mercy of the wind? If, instead of lightening it to make it flee more swiftly, he were to weigh it down, saying, "This way it will remain steadier," wouldn't he decree a shipwreck? The same happens with souls in a storm. They must be lightened. They must be understood in their reactions and their needs. Their disorientation must not be augmented with unjust condemnations. Oh, how readily and promptly people condemn. And wasn't I condemned over and over as a demon? John chapter 7, verse 20. It is easy to say, "You are possessed," but instead, isn't the one who accuses possessed in sinning against charity and justice? Take me, your master, once again as an example. Martha and Mary, unsettled by pain, reproached Jesus for not having come as promptly as they had wished to prevent Lazarus' death. Did I reproach them? No, I caressed and comforted them. John chapter 11, verse 20 to 34. The comfort given the sisters is more obvious, however, in the episode involving Lazarus' resurrection in Maria Valtorta's work on the gospel. I am able to understand and sympathize with unsettled souls. Learn. Perhaps the one who, as you seek this reply, will further ask, what can be done to bring relief to that poor soul in a storm? Oh, it's very easy. By asking to suffer to relieve its suffering and restore peace and light to it, to take on the burdens of others, to place oneself on the crosses of others, to unburden others of this weight, and remove them from their crosses. I did so. Do so yourselves. And that's enough for now. Rest in my peace, and put to sleep the suffering of Jesus over so many human sins and failings, singing my mother's lullaby, given on November 28th. See note 795. Like a little bird that is happy over the lovely sun. You've got the sun. Me. I bless you. My note. Father Pennoni spoke to me about this case on that ill-omened November the 8th. For 32 days, Jesus remained silent in this regard. Only this morning did he speak.